The Piper by S. Baring-Gould. In the reign of King Charles I, a strolling musician, a poor piper named John Bartondale, was brought in 1634 before the assizes and was convicted of felony. He received sentence and on March 27th was hung on the gallows outside Micklegate Bar, York. There were no houses there at the time. It was open country. After he had remained swinging for 3/4 of an hour and was to all appearance dead, he was cut down and buried near the place of execution. The officers of justice had accomplished their work carelessly in both particulars, as it afterwards transpired, for he had been neither properly hung nor properly buried. Earth has a peculiarly invigorating and restorative effect, as has been recently discovered, and patients suffering from debility are by some medical men nowadays placed in earth baths with the most salutary effects. In the case of gangrened wounds, a little earth has been found efficacious in promoting healthy action of the skin. John Bartondale was now to experience the advantages of an earth bath. That same day, in the afternoon, a gentleman, one of the Vavasors of Hazelwood, was riding by when he observed the earth moving in a certain place. He ordered his servant to alight. He himself descended from his horse, and together they threw off the mound and discovered the unfortunate piper alive. He opened his eyes, sat up, and asked where he was and how he came there. Mr. Vavasor and his servant helped him out of his grave and seated him on the side. The man was sent for water and other restoratives, and before long the news had spread about down Micklegate that the poor piper was come to life again. A swarm of wondering and sympathising people poured out to congratulate John the Piper on his resurrection and to offer their assistance. A conveyance was obtained, and as soon as Bartondale was in a sufficient condition to be moved, he was placed in it, covered with Mr. Vavasor's cloak, for he had been stripped by the executioner before he was laid in the earth, and was removed again to York Castle. It was rather hard that the poor fellow, after he had obtained his release, should have been returned to his prison, but there was no help for it. The resurrection of the piper was no secret. Otherwise, Mr. Vavasor would doubtless have removed him privately to a place of security till he was recovered, and then have sent him into another part of the country. At the following assizes, Bartondale was brought up again. It was a nice point at law whether the man could be sentenced to execution again, after the sheriff had signed his affidavit that the man had been hung till he was dead. Mr. Vavasor was naturally reluctant to supply the one link in the chain of evidence which established the identity of the prisoner with the piper who had been hung and buried for felony. He made earnest intercession that the poor fellow might be reprieved. Popular sympathy was on his side. The judge was disposed to mercy, and Bartondale was accorded a full and free pardon, the judge remarking that the case was one in which the Almighty seemed to have interfered in mercy to frustrate the ends of human justice, and that therefore he was not disposed to reverse the decree of Providence according to the piper, and a prolongation of his days on earth. The end.